In this video, let us discuss about service transition. Release and deployment management, goals and objectives. The purpose of the release and deployment management process is to plan, schedule and control the build, test and deployment of releases and to deliver new functionality required by the business while protecting the integrity of existing services. Release and deployment management aims to build, test and deliver the capability to provide the services specified by service design, and that will accomplish the stakeholders' requirements and deliver the intended solution. Goal: to deploy releases into production and enable effective use of the service in order to deliver value to the customer. The objectives of release and deployment management are to define and agree release and deployment management plans with customers and stakeholders. Create and test release packages that consist of related configuration items that are compatible with each other. Ensure that the integrity of a release package and its constituent components is maintained throughout the transition activities and that all release packages are stored in a DML and recorded accurately in the CMS. Deploy release packages from the DML to the live environment following an agreed plan and schedule. Ensure that all release packages can be tracked, installed, tested, verified and/or uninstalled or backed out if appropriate. Release and deployment management, goals and objectives. Ensure that organization and stakeholder change is managed during release and deployment activities. Ensure that a new or changed service and its enabling systems, technology and organizations are capable of delivering the agreed utility and warranty. Record and manage deviations, risks and issues related to the new or changed service and take necessary corrective action. Ensure that there is knowledge transfer to enable the customers and users to optimize their use of the service to support their business activities. Ensure that skills and knowledge are transferred to service operation functions to enable them to effectively and efficiently deliver, support and maintain the service according to required warranties and service levels. Release and deployment management, scope and approaches. In the scope of release and deployment management, the processes, systems and functions are included. There are three kinds of approaches for release and deployment management: Big Bang versus phased. The Big Bang option, the new or changed service, is deployed to all user areas in one operation. This will often be used when introducing an application change and consistency of service across the organization is considered important. This option is sometimes called parallel deployment. Phased approach, the service is deployed to a part of the user base initially, and then this operation is repeated for subsequent parts of the user base via scheduled deployment plan. This will be the case in many scenarios, such as in retail organizations for new services being introduced into the store's environment in manageable phases. Push versus pull. The push approach. A push approach is used where the service component is deployed from the center and pushed out to the target locations. In terms of service deployment, delivering updated service components to all users, either in Big Bang or phased form, constitutes push, since the new or changed service is delivered into the user's environment at a time not of their choosing. Pull approach. A pull approach is used for software releases, where the software is made available in a central location, but users are free to pull the software down to their own location at a time of their choosing, or when a user workstation restarts. The use of pull, updating a release over the internet, has made this concept significantly more pervasive. A good example is virus signature updates, which are typically pulled down to update PCs and servers when it best suits the customer. However, at times of extreme virus risk, this may be overridden by a release that is pushed to all known users. Automation versus manual. Whether by automation or other means, the mechanisms to deploy the correctly configured service components should be established in the release design stage and tested in the build and test stages. Automation will help to ensure repeatability and consistency. The time required to provide a well-designed and efficient automated mechanism may not always be available or viable. If a manual mechanism is used, it is important to monitor and measure the impact of many repeated manual activities, as they are likely to be inefficient and error-prone. Too many manual activities will slow down the release team and create resource or capacity issues that affect the service levels. Release and deployment management, scope and approaches. Many release and deployment activities are capable of a degree of automation. For example, discovery tools aid release planning. Discovery and installation software can check whether the required prerequisites and co-requisites are in place before installation of new or changed software components. Automated builds can significantly reduce build and recovery times, which in turn can resolve scheduling conflict and delays. Automated configuration baseline procedures save time and reduce errors in capturing the status of configurations and releases during release build, test, and release deployment. An organization may decide that the release unit for business-critical applications is the complete application in order to ensure that testing is comprehensive. The same organization may decide that a more appropriate release unit for a website is at the page level. A key to release and deployment management is defining the appropriate release package type for a given type of release. Release and deployment management, key definitions. Release is any CI or group of CIs required to implement one or more approved changes to IT services. Release unit is components of an IT service that are normally released together. A release unit typically includes sufficient components to perform a useful function. One release unit could be a desktop PC, including hardware, software, licenses, and documentation. A different release unit may be the complete payroll application, including IT operations procedures and user training. ELS, Early Life Support. During early life support, service transition and service operation work together, aka hand-holding. Things to remember. Well-planned and implemented release and deployment management will make a significant difference to an organization's service costs. A poorly designed release or deployment will, at best, force IT personnel to spend significant amounts of time troubleshooting problems and managing complexity. At worst, it can cripple the environment and degrade live services. Service validation and testing, goals and objectives. The underlying concept to which service validation and testing contributes is quality assurance. Establishing that the service design and release will deliver a new or changed service or service offering that is fit for purpose and fit for use. Testing is a vital area within service management and has often been the unseen underlying cause of what was taken to be inefficient service management processes. The purpose of the service validation and testing process is to ensure that a new or changed IT service matches its design specification and will meet the needs of the business. Goals of service validation and testing is to provide objective evidence to the new or changed service support, customer, business, and stakeholders' requirements. Objectives of service validation and testing are: confirms that customer and stakeholder requirements are defined, assures that the release will deliver service which are fit for purpose, performance, and fit for use specifications. Remedy errors early in service lifecycle. Scope of service validation and testing are: supports release and deployment process, ensuring appropriate levels of testing are performed during the release, build, and deployment activities. Can be applied throughout the lifecycle to quality assure any aspect of a service. The service provider takes responsibility for delivering, operating, and/or maintaining customer or service assets at specified levels of warranty under a service agreement. Service validation and testing can be applied throughout the service lifecycle to quality assure any aspect of a service and the service provider's capability, resources, and capacity to deliver a service and/or service release successfully. When validating and testing an end-to-end service, the interfaces to suppliers, customers, and partners are important. Service provider interface definitions define the boundaries of the service to be tested, e.g., process interfaces and organizational interfaces. Service validation and testing, key definitions. Service Level Package, SLP, is a defined level of utility and warranty for a particular service package. Each SLP is designed to meet the needs of a particular pattern of business activity, PBA. SLPs are associated with a set of service levels, pricing policies, and a core service package. Service Level Requirement, SLR, is a customer requirement for an aspect of an IT service. SLRs are based on business objectives and are used to negotiate service level targets. Service Design Package, SDP, is a document defining all aspects of an IT service and its requirements through each stage of its life cycle. A service design package is produced for each new IT service, major change, or IT service retirement. Test strategy. A test strategy defines the overall approach to organizing testing and allocating testing resources. Test models. A test model includes a test plan, what is to be tested, and the test scripts that define how each element will be tested. Regression testing. Regression testing means repeating a test already run successfully and comparing the new results with the earlier valid results. During each iteration of true regression testing, all existing validated tests are run and the new results are compared with the already achieved standards. Service validation and testing. Service V model. The Service V model is a unique concept that provides a path to follow with regards to defining the requirements for a service package, designing the package, building and then testing the package. The model provides baseline points along the path that are used as checkpoints to ensure that what is being designed, built and delivered versus what was required. Using techniques such as the Service V model for service validation and testing provides a framework to help organize the levels of configuration items that are needed and the associated testing and validation activities within and across stages of the change. The V model approach is traditionally associated with a waterfall lifecycle, but is, in fact, just as applicable to other life cycles, including iterative life cycles such as prototyping and RAD approaches. Within each cycle of the iterative development, the V model concepts of establishing acceptance criteria against the requirements and design can apply, with each iterative design being considered for the degree of integrity and competence that would justify release to the customer for trial and assessment. Various controlled environments will need to be built or made available for the different types and levels of testing, as well as to support other transition activities such as training. Existing deployment processes and procedures can be used to build the controlled test environments. The environments will need to be secure to ensure that there is no unauthorized access and that any segregation of duty requirements are met. In this session, you've learnt about service transition goals, objectives, and how it adds value to business. 7 different service transition processes, service transition planning and support, service validation and testing, Service Asset and Configuration Management, SACM, and its key terminologies, change evaluation, release and deployment management goals, objectives, and how it adds value to business, change management, knowledge management. Summary. Selecting and adopting the best practice as recommended in this module will assist organizations in delivering significant benefits. It will help to set up service transition and the processes that support it, and to make effective use of those processes to facilitate the effective transitioning of new, changed, or decommissioned services. Adopting and implementing standard and consistent approaches for service transition will enable projects to estimate the cost, timing, resource requirement, and risks associated with the service transition stage more accurately, result in higher volumes of successful change, be easier for people to adopt and follow, enable service transition assets to be shared and reused across projects and services, reduce delays from unexpected clashes and dependencies. For example, if multiple projects need to use the same test environment at the same time. Reduce the effort spent on managing the service transition test and pilot environments. Improve expectation setting for all stakeholders involved in service transition, including customers, users, suppliers, partners, and projects. Increase confidence that the new or changed service can be delivered to specification without unexpectedly affecting other services or stakeholders. Ensure that new or changed services will be maintainable and cost-effective. Improve control of service assets and configurations.